Subscribe to Simply Bitcoin.
Yeah, what for? What do you got jail for?
I told an XRPer,
To Simply Bitcoin.
dumb bitch. That's what I told him.
You called him a dumb bitch.
Yeah, what for?
Yeah,
What do you got jail
and I
for?
got 7 days.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's not okay.
Told an XRPer.
Bob, I think you might have the show running simultaneously.
And I got 7
Oh,
days.
how boomer is that?
That's pretty bad.
That is fairly boomy.
All
How
right.
about that?
Test stream. It's a test stream. Don't worry.
No, yeah,
Test stream, yeah,
nobody's going to
exactly.
notice.
Exactly, you passed the test.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome in. It is another episode of the Meme Factory podcast. This is test stream number 31.
Hi, Craig.
Hey, Yellow. How was your poop?
Hey, what's up?
Was it good?
No,
Everything
it was
come out
good.
okay?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
This is the reason why we're starting late today, everybody.
Thanks
Just
for
so-
asking,
I'm concerned about your health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi because you always say hi to everybody and nobody says hi back. So, hi, Craig.
Hey, thanks, Yellow. I appreciate that.
Now do your job.
Okay, doing my job. So, this evening we've got Bob Burnett. Bob has a storied history in tech. He was CTO at Gateway Computers. Is that right? CTO?
That's correct. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
He is CEO at Divi Systems, which is a Bitcoin and some other shitcoin mining company, and Barefoot Mining, which is a hosting service, correct?
Divi, we manufacture equipment and distribute equipment, and then Barefoot hosts and mines. So,
All right.
just it's some legal maneuvering. We had to separate it into two things instead of one.
All right. So,
Bob, Gateway, sorry, Greg, I've just got to ask this question.
Yeah.
Gateway Computers were the ones that delivered the computers in a box that was painted like a cow, right?
Correct. Yep.
What was the story with that?
Well, very early days of Gateway, this would have been in the late 80s. All the advertising was done in magazines. And there was a big magazine called Computer Shopper. It was like this thick, 2 inches thick. And to separate the ad, like to get attention, one of the first ads run was one that said computers from Iowa with a big cow in it. And it was really successful. It kind of launched the company. And so I said, well, what the hell? Let's make that the brand, kind of a what would you call that? Like where it's exactly the opposite of what you'd expect, like technology and cows. And it stood out and had a great run, had about 15-year run. That was pretty special, frankly.
Amazing.
My
Cool.
dad used to write in Computer Shopper magazine.
Really? Wow. That's cool. That's cool.
Excuse me, RD, you don't get to talk until the end.
as is tradition.
Interesting fact.
So just go mute yourself now, please. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, that's fine.
All right, Bob, can you give us the quick rundown of who exactly you are and how it relates to the Bitcoin space and what's on your mind these days?
Yeah. Well, so obviously I spent most of my career in personal computers. On Twitter, I go by Boomer BTC because I'm old. I started designing laptop computers in 1986. So really at the birth of the personal computer industry. And without boring you with that whole history, I left that industry in 2004, did a technology incubator. And ultimately in 2017, I got a phone call and it was from an old Gateway person. They said, hey, Bob, could you design some Ethereum mining equipment for me? And I hadn't been very involved in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency at the time at all. So I looked at it really as a computer guy, right? And a little piece of computer history is that when NVIDIA was starting, just a startup company, hadn't sold anything to anybody yet. And I was in design at Gateway. We were the first company to design an NVIDIA chip onto a motherboard. And we kind of gave them their start essentially. Now they become a monster in and of themselves, obviously. But so in 2017, if you guys remember, GPUs are hard to get. They're still hard to get. Me and my kind of my right-hand man and partner, Keith Thomas. We called up NVIDIA and said, "Hey, do you remember us? and could we get some chips?" And we were very fortunate. They only gave chips to 3 people in the world, nobody else in North America, and they gave them to us. So it allowed us to get in that business. And I had this one customer, design those computers for that customer. We were making some money on them. So we went to some other people, just randomly said, "Hey, would you like to buy one too?" And a lot of people started saying yes, but most of them saying yes said, "Yes, but only if you'll host it for us." So that's how Barefoot Mining started. The first company was Divi that designed the computers. Second company was Barefoot, which hosted them. And our lawyers told us, don't do them both in the same company because somebody's going to sue you someday, and at least you get to keep half, right? So whichever half they didn't sue you, get to keep that half. So, but then I started going down the rabbit hole. About a year later, realized that I really wasn't that enthused about Ethereum, and like a lot of people, kind of switched my allegiances to Bitcoin, but I didn't have the opportunity to design Bitcoin mining equipment. I didn't have the ASICs. So I did the next best thing, which was we reached out to Bitfury, which was the largest European maker of equipment, and we signed a distribution deal with them. So to this day, we still remain the distributor of Bitfury equipment in the US. And as we grew, we started to do less hosting. We still do hosting, but we do less hosting, more self-mining. We can talk about more of that later. We've now got several sites up in South Dakota, one in Nebraska, and one in South Carolina. And I'm down here in Houston right now. I'm looking for energy. I always like to say in the Bitcoin world, in the mining world, there's 3 things. There's energy, there's the machines, and there's capital. And at any point in time, this would be my, Burnett's law of mining is at any one point in time, one of those is hard, and it shifts, right? But right now it's energy. The machines are relatively available, and capital is pretty free. When we were in the winter, you could get the energy and the machines, but you couldn't get the capital, right? So it's always something that we're chasing.
Okay, now, Bob, I would be remiss if, while we're talking about capital, I didn't try to get our ad read in.
Yeah.
I sent it to you earlier. I know you've watched the show. You know that our sponsors make the guests read the ad copy. I just want to make sure you had an opportunity to do that before we get too far into the show here.
Yeah. Well, without sponsors, we're not here, right? So this is very important. I want to respect it. So.
And I want to thank Coin Nickers. Thank you, boss.
Yep. Thank you, boss.
Thank you, boss.
Thanks, boss. Some Bitcoin.
Cheers, boss.
All right. Are we ready? All right. This episode of the Meme Factory podcast is brought to you by the hardworking men and women at Suscorp, their subsidiary Boomer Tech, and their new product, the Boomer Stick. Do you struggle to read the information displayed on the tiny screens of hardware wallets? Is rheumatoid arthritis making it difficult to press the correct buttons? Are Bitcoin terms confusing to you? Well, Suscorp has your best interests in mind. The Boomer Stick from Boomer Tech is a generational leap in geriatric Bitcoin technology. They have addressed all the concerns of prominent boomers such as myself and Gary Leland with this amazing product. The Boomer Stick features extra large buttons to make it easier to enter your PIN and perform other operations. Since Suscorp understands the unique problem set of senile seniors, the Boomer Stick is shipped with a full-size, soft-touch QWERTY keyboard, so you can hunt and peck your way to self-sovereignty. The screen has a detachable magnifying glass on a swivel arm to make the screen easier to read, but comes in handy when you need to sort through our glossary of Bitcoin terms. The glossary ships with the Boomer Stick and comes in the familiar form of the yellow pages. Remember the yellow pages? Probably not, but it'll feel familiar. If you hurry and order today, Suscorp will throw in the full experience, and your Boomer Stick will be thrown on your doorstep by a child actor paperboy riding a bicycle. So order today and use the promo code Submarine Races to get a free Life Alert necklace and $2.33 off coupon for any Mel's Diner location. Oh man!
Well done.
Hey, thank
Well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you.
Bob.
You know, thank
Yeah.
You
Gotta
can
get
get
paid
paid
now.
now.
Yeah, well, I'm in.
Hey,
I'm in, man.
I think just thought you joined the shopping channel there.
Gotta get some souvlaki. Thank you.
Some souvlaki. All right. So we were getting into a little bit of the mining. He said Bob's law is at any given time, capital or machines or chips. So those are or power energy. Those are the three that are hard. Right now, energy's the tough one.
Yep.
When that's going to be changing, obviously.
Before you answer this, what other rabbit hole? No. No. I'm not gonna do that question again.
One rabbit hole. All right.
Are we like open for new members, Greg? What is going on?
What do you mean?
We have VJ in the building.
Well, VJ's following Greg this week.
I think
so-
we're more people now. Are we
I'm gonna go have
expanding?
dinner with some friends. I just want to log on to say fuck you, Greg. Bye.
Look, I don't really know who this guy is. He's been following me around for the last couple of days on Twitter. I can't get him away. He's late every
stalking
time.
you.
Every time I try to get him to do something, he's late. He was late with
I'm
his coffee this
stalking
morning. He was bad with the order this morning. I don't know how this guy gets anything done. But VJ, it's good to see you.
Love you guys. Bye.
He just threw
A cameo.
So Bob, we were talking about Bob's law, 3 things that are scarce, and what I want to get after is, that's your short-term problem on a day-to-day basis. What kind of long-term problems do you see on the horizon with Bitcoin mining?
Well, we'll start at the highest level, and this is a bit controversial, but I believe that we're seeing too much a movement toward what I call the elephant class sites and companies, and there's a risk. It's not tomorrow, but it's directional. That if we get too concentrated in these large sites, that the network now creates a vulnerability. And it's not 51% attack. I think 51% attack stuff is mostly bullshit. It's more attacking the integrity of the network. So I'll give you the extreme example, and I want to be clear. I'm not predicting this. I'm just saying it's a possibility. It's a non-zero possibility. Let's say some point in the future, X number of years in the future, 50 sites control 85% of the hash. And let's say they're all grid connected as well. Now, I've done the math, and it's in an article I did for Bitcoin Magazine, if anybody's interested in the gory details, but basically it works this way. If on the moment of a difficulty adjustment, all that hash were to be turned off, then the difficulty adjustment period would go from 14 days to 81 days. And obviously all the transaction processing would grind to a halt by a factor of like 6 or 7. And I did this exercise, by the way, because I looked at what happened with China and said, yeah, hey, we can all pat ourselves on the back. Look how resilient the Bitcoin network was. But at what point does it break? Where is the break point? There's got to be a break point. And I believe it's right about there, that if we had that blast. Now, if I take it to the extreme, by the way, let's say 99% of the hash was there, then the difficulty adjustment's about 280 days. And so, again, I'm not predicting this, but I think there are certain vulnerabilities. I also think, I was just on this panel here, I was at this conference called Empower in Houston, and one of the other topics I brought up is all these big guys are going public. And I'll be more blunt here than I was on stage there. I was pretty blunt. It's a fucking fiat move. When you go public, it changes the culture. And if to say you're a Bitcoin company and you're a public company is an oxymoron. You're doing everything against the Bitcoin ethos. you're forcing your company and your culture into 90-day cycles. You're measuring yourself in dollars. You're paying your shareholders in dollars, not Bitcoin. It changes everything. And we can't stop people or companies from doing that. But I hope for the sake of all of us that doesn't become a bigger trend than it already is. I'll say to you guys, I said it publicly here today, I'm not a huge miner. Trying to do my part. We're trying to get bigger, but I won't go public. And I did do it, by the way. When I was at Gateway, I was part of Gateway. I was part of the team that helped take that company public. And I saw what it did to our company. I would argue that while it made a lot of people wealthy, even me, I did really well. It ultimately damaged the company. The company, you could somewhat say the demise of the company started the day it went public.
Okay, that's
We promise here at Beam Factory to never go public as well. All the success that we're having. But in reality, it has me thinking, if you had, 99% of hash and you said 200 days, but that would suppose that for those 200 days that no hash came back onto the network too, right?
No, I factored that in. So what
hash started coming back on, if miners started coming back on.
Yeah. So what I do is I say, well, if we had that split, 99%, 1%, right? So on the shelves is a whole bunch of equipment that's not plugged in, right? And additionally, there's ASICs coming in. So I factored that math in. And so what I factor in is almost a 7x growth in the 1%. So the 1%, which would probably be home miners and little miners like me, recovering over the course of that 280 days to get to that point. So, certainly that would happen, but it just, you just can't make up for that much, right? And then, did you guys remember how the difficulty adjustment, there's a built-in piece in the difficulty adjustment that it can only correct 25%, right? So it can't, this is where it can kind of work against you a little bit, because you technically you'd probably say, I want to recover faster, but you can't. You can only go so fast. And there's, this is kind of like a game theory exercise that I played with myself. Should I say that, playing with myself?
We're big fans of playing with ourselves on this channel.
You are Bob Malakas.
So when I was doing that exercise, I said, okay, if I play this thing out, how much hash would have to come back on the backside of the difficulty adjustment? In other words, I'll put it this way. I'll take the extreme. We do this. We struggle through 280 days. We get to the difficulty adjustment. It happens, but it can't correct us back to 10-minute block times. It can only correct us back to about 30-minute block times.
Well, what about this, Bob? So China right now is the biggest producer of hash. I mean, we all know that, but traditionally that comes out of Amsterdam. What if they ramped up?
Morocco, sir, Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah, well, we'd all be happy. We'd all be cool with that, right? We had a massive,
Bitcoin miners?
yeah, bringing back to my college days, but yeah. So yeah, you threw me with that one, Greg, man.
I'm sorry. We're talking about hash.
That's okay. We're just talking hash. So here's what I do. So you want to play the whole game theory out. Here's what I did. So I said, okay, this happens 280 days. Now, if I would, let's say it was all shut down because some politician, I like to give this scenario. Imagine a world where AOC is president and Elizabeth Warren is the energy secretary and Bernie Sanders is VP and Beto O'Rourke is the governor of Texas, that kind of scenario. I'm not saying those are good or bad people, but let's just say that was the scenario and they didn't like Bitcoin. So they shut it down. What I would do if I were them is as soon as the difficulty adjustment happened, I would try to get that stuff back on as fast as possible. And now the difficulty adjustment has been made based on this tiny amount of hash, and you throw it back on. So now the block times go from having taken like 16 hours on average to taking like 2 minutes. So you fly through, because it's 2016 blocks, right? So you fly through that. It takes less than 3 days, and then you turn it off again. So and then you start that whole freaking thing over again. So the math I did, and you can debate it, but it's not off by much if it's wrong, is it would take about 420 days to do 3 difficulty adjustments if you did that. And
420, huh?
yeah, imagine that. Here we go again.
Nice.
That's funny. That's a great one. I hadn't made that connection before. Yeah.
Who's laughing in the background? Is that MTC?
Micro chat.
Yeah.
So how do we safeguard the Bitcoin hash network? And how do we safeguard the miners from running into this kind of issue?
Well, I mean, it's part of my mission personally. Is I have nothing against an individual big site. What I'm against is too many of them. And I also think, like, if I had, let's say I had my choice of one 500 megawatt site or 200 2.5 megawatt sites, I would rather have the 200 2.5 megawatt sites. And what my company does is we develop, I got next week, I have a 300 kilowatt mini pod going up at, on the outside of a little warehouse in South Dakota. We just found some extra power, great rate. And so we throw it in there with like 80 S19s in that case, and off we go. We love those sort of things. If the world is populated with all those little arbitrage opportunities, and we can make it really safe. And we don't have to have 100% of the hash. I'd say anything below 30% of the hash outside of what I call the elephant sites is really safe. I also want to develop non-grid based mining. So like one of the things we did is we own our own hydroelectric facility. So we just bought a hydroelectric facility. We own it, we control it. It costs some money to buy it, but I shouldn't say nobody could turn us off. I suppose they could show up with guns and tanks and take us out, but I'm not sure they even know we're there, although I may have just blown my cover now.
Not really.
Probably not, right?
on that, sorry,
go on.
Oh yeah, my question is that because it has to do with water, and of course I know that like holding land and like it's a very what is the word, like secured like right in the States, right? But like because it has to do with water, like can you like actually
You're talking about property rights and how they relate
yeah,
to the waters and energy sources.
Isn't like water something like public good, so you cannot do everything around that? Like, I don't know.
Well, you
isn't that problems with rights and like taking permissions to like use the water, because like isn't it like a public kind of
yeah, ownership of the water rights is important. And we obviously we have that. We've been through the whole legal process of making sure that the water.
How big of a hassle, basically, my question is, how big of a hassle is it? Yeah.
In my case, not much at all. Because when we acquired the rights to the place, the previous controller of the site had kind of everything all worked out. So in our case, this site's in South Carolina, so we had cleared with the federal government that there's certain jurisdiction there. There's certain jurisdiction at the state level. There's certain jurisdiction in the there's like a water district too. So you have to kind of go through all those, make sure that it's cool. In our case, the dam already existed, right? We didn't build the dam. If you build a new dam, that's a big thing. And what we're doing is, so imagine, there's a river, there's a relatively small dam. It's, the span of the river is maybe like 100 meters, okay? And and off to the side of the dam, a little of the water gets diverted. It runs down a pipe, but we got like a 10-foot pipe. It runs
like a drop.
Yeah, it's going to drop 50 feet over the space of about 100 meters again. It smashes into a turbine. The turbine spins. That's connected to a generator that connects to our container, and off we go. The water then exits the building and re-enters the river. So the water's only the same amount of water
Enters
goes into
out,
the river,
gets out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's this space of, I don't know, 100 meters or so where that water's not flowing down the river. But I mean, there's plenty of water still flowing down the river. We're just taking part of it. So
nobody's going to notice.
Not really, no. There are other technologies, so there are other technologies. Like if you wanted to do a small, let's say,
like that Belgian company with a small turbine that's has a rotation. Yeah. I actually researched it. That's why I'm asking. Like here in Europe, it's like extremely difficult to even make a small kind of like installation like that, because it has to do with water, and it's like consider that public domain that you cannot mess with like a lot. Like the fish that enters has to enter like healthy 100%. Like it's all about to do with the fish, the ecosystem, and all that. Yeah.
Are you mining? Yeah. You're mining with fish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what it really has, is if you think about like a boat going down a river, right? I mean, that propeller is spinning. Okay. So, I can't speak to all jurisdictions around the world, but what I can say in general, if you don't build a dam and you don't divert water, if all you do is you have some sort of a water wheel or a device that kind of doesn't disrupt what they call the run of the river, then you probably can do it. And there's some small scale solutions like that can be 20 kilowatts or 30 kilowatts, but that's still enough to power, a handful of miners. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think it's really important. So like the integrity of the network, if you go really back to the early day, you read Satoshi's writings, and, he never envisioned like these big farms and this massive concentration. His vision was, everybody had a miner in their house, and they were, replacing their baseboard heating with it. So, and I think he's right in that is the most secure.
And are you still talking to him?
To Satoshi? Yeah. Yeah. I wish, man. I wish. Yeah. Who is it? What do you guys think? Is it Hal? Hal's my guess.
You're the one that says you're talking about what he thinks the mining situation is going to be like. So you tell me, what do you, where is Satoshi?
Yeah, where is he? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You think it's yellow?
Nah. I wouldn't know if it was yellow. Wait, what?
I don't know what it is. I don't really early on I expended some energy trying to figure it out, but now I'm just glad we don't know, and I hope we never find out.
Yeah. That is, it's actually like the greatest stroke of non-ego like power move of all time. I mean, whoever he is, if he's out there, man.
And exactly on that basis, we know who it isn't.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right. It's
Exactly.
Not Craig Wright.
Yeah. Fuck you, Craig Wright, huh?
You, Craig.
He can't have that.
That's fuck you, Craig, not fuck you, Greg.
Yeah, but that's how Yellow says it.
Both. Why not both?
All right. So what do you? We're talking about elephant classified sites. How do you classify all the other mining sites? So elephant is how many megawatts?
About 20. I'd say 20 megawatts and larger is elephant size. What I call horse size sites, which is what I kind of specialize in, like half a megawatt to about 10. And then a rabbit is really the home miners. And I use those analogies because, the elephants, they're slow to move, they're easy to hunt, they're powerful, and I think they perform a valuable service. I'm not hating on them 100%, just hating on them doing too much. And I think they've gotten so much power because, especially through going public, they've got this capital. That capital allowed them to go buy all the ASICs, and they locked us all out. Even my size company, I was fortunate. I had this relationship with Bitfury that gave me at least some stream of access to technology, even in the tightest times. But getting a What's Miner or a Bitmain product until very recently was just a freaking nightmare. Even buying in a little bit of size, unless you want to pay like $14,000, and have a 3-year ROI. Pray it's still working after that, and but yeah. So anyway, elephants are that way. The horses are kind of they're kind of nimble. They're still strong. They're fast. You can move them quickly. So as an example, something happens, like the dam completely shuts down in South Carolina, like I'm not completely screwed because I've got that in a container. I can pack it up. I can be gone in 3 days. I may have to go overpay for energy for the short term to keep them running, but I can move, and if the state of South Carolina says mining's illegal, I can move. If a massive hurricane is going to slam in there and I'm afraid of it, I can move. I can do these things to protect myself. So those are the horses. And like I said, and I think the horses, part of the responsibility of the horses is to really develop the off-grid size, because the elephants by definition have to be on grid. The only way to get that much power is to work in cooperation with the utility companies. It's hard for the rabbits, the home guys, to really be off grid. There'll be a couple guys with solar or something like that, but realistically, can they put the capital up and can they justify any sort of scale of that? No, they're just going to plug them in the wall. So it's really up to the horses to provide that off-grid space. And so I'm here in Houston because obviously there's a lot of oil and gas guys, and I'm trying to find stranded gas. I love hydro. I've been down to El Salvador. I'm talking to them still about the geothermal stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a solar opportunity in Italy. I don't know if it'll come together or not, but I'm just all the time trying to find these sort of things. And I like when I can own or control the power, because that makes me really hard to shut down.
Sovereign. Makes you sovereign miner.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the anti-fragile approach. How much of a threat is, or how much of an impact, rather, are you seeing this ESG agenda having from your perspective? Because I heard something a few days ago where Texas is looking at effectively building out the equivalent of its power consumption, power generation capabilities again in the next sort of couple of years, a doubling effectively, but primarily through what would be called renewables or unreliables, whatever you want to call it, right? So there's clearly people who are taking this seriously, and there's incentives, and they all matter. But from what the kind of projects and resources that you're looking at tapping into, how much of an impact is it having on the mindsets of people?
Well, I'll answer two ways. First, from the perspective of the big guys. The big guys are basically all public now. And the public guys, that's why I think it's really bad for them to be going public, because as soon as they're public, then their shareholders become large funds and family offices and big pension funds and things like that. And the amount of ESG related requirements from those investors is so high, it almost forces them to acquiesce to that. And if they don't, now they risk probably control of the company. So it's one of many reasons I think going public is bad. Like it's really not good. Now, from perspective of people like me, what I found is that I can attract investors. I'll use the hydro example. Like it wasn't that difficult for me to raise money for that project because there were two types of people that went into it, or that it attracts. One type, I would say the Bitcoin purists, who go, wow, awesome, like you said, Greg, you've created this self-sovereign operation. That's awesome. And they get that, and they get the control of the power. And then there's the other group that says, oh, well, they do have some ESG, green sort of philosophical bent, and that kind of project helps. But to really answer your question, I go back to the first one primarily, though. The ESG thing is dangerous because this bullshit from Chris Larson and the whole Ripple thing. We have to watch out for this stuff, and because we're a loose group, like, or what would you call us, a cooperative? We're just kind of like-minded people trying to come together, and we're battling what I call the unholy trinity, which is it's the central government, the central bank / governments, it's the environmental activism, and it's the shitcoins. And I believe they act, like I said, I call them the unholy trinity, and I think they're kind of finding this alliance right now. It started unstructured. I think it's becoming structured, and you're starting to see them regurgitating each other's words. Greenpeace will say Bitcoin boils the oceans. The Ripple clown will come in and say, oh, look, you don't need to do that. You can have a secure network using proof of stake or whatever the hell they have. I don't even know.
Or better a security network.
Yeah. And so, we're fighting that. And I met today, I ended up just by chance, Congressman Sessions. He's from the district.
Oh, great. Yeah.
He runs that show with the tutorials.
Pete Sessions, right?
Yeah. So I spent about an hour and a half with him today, and I would say, he not at our level gets it, but he gets it to a certain degree, and he's a voice fighting this stuff. We're fortunate to have him. We have Senator Lummis. I'm actually meeting with Ted Cruz in the morning. I'm staying over. I got a breakfast thing with.
I just saw that Ted Cruz put in a bill to make sure there were no CBDCs from the United States government. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that they couldn't. He didn't say they couldn't be CBDCs. He said they couldn't control the wallets. They couldn't control it, which I'd rather not see. Yeah.
So the conversation goes again to a point that has come before with other guests, Bob, is that, like, do we have to organize at some point around the lobby? Do we have to play that game? Does that conversation is a plus for us as a community or whatever, as an industry, let's say, or does that lead to compromises that down the line we don't need because we just build and we just code? We don't care.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of the latter, but I'm not 100% sure.
We all are.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of the latter. There's a lot happening. So I'll tell you that I've been involved. I'm not a political person very much, but I'm connected to some forces, and I have to be careful what I say. There's a state, a big state, like I'm talking a top 10 like population state that there's a movement within the state structure, a major faction of the state structure, to move significant part of their corporate treasury to Bitcoin. And
call the other Bob right now, guys. Call the other Bob.
He's on it. He's on
Get
it.
him in here.
Malakas is already writing the copy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it'll happen or not, but it's a big movement, and it's got a real shot of making it through. And then I got another one where
Well, Bob, I know you can't tell us the name of the state, but can you tell us what it rhymes with?
Like,
I mean, this is the thing, right?
I
I see, you know,
Mississippi.
yeah, yellow is kind of getting it, you know, whether playing into the ESG narrative and going along with, well, Bitcoin is ESG compliant, is kowtowing, and I think that's a legitimate concern. But I'm kind of, when you think about the big institutional investors and the fact that they're not doing massive deep dives on this, it's a question of where should we put our money, and is this compliant? Are we allowed to do this? And it's kind of like a box ticking exercise, right?
Yeah.
If they're not breaking any rules and this is all legitimate and above board, then it helps to build more investment into the Bitcoin space. And I do hate the idea of kowtowing to bullshit narratives, which I think it is, right? I think it's a complete scam now, irrespective of what people think about the environmentalism cause. The attack on Bitcoin from an ESG perspective is a massive fraud. So,
yeah.
but you know, fundamentally, there is a really positive story to tell, right? Bitcoin fixes this at such a profound base layer that it, of course, plays in positively to whatever environmental or sustainable narrative you want to come up with. But that's like a thread. The ESG thread is one that, you know, globalists control and kleptocrats and technocrats control for their ends, and there is a danger, right?
Yeah, it's a legitimate danger. You know, I want to I've shared with you, like, I have this hydroelectric facility. I didn't develop that hydroelectric facility because of an ESG thing, right? I wasn't trying to solve some problem there. I was trying to mine Bitcoin in as most efficient manner as possible, and I wanted to control the power. And Bitcoin incentivized me to do that to this facility, which, by the way, was in a little bit of disrepair. It wasn't working. So I raised the capital. I put the deal together to make it happen so that I could control my energy and I could have a really low cost of energy. There are other people doing their things, whether it's in flared gas or, you know, whatever, that are similar. Bitcoin did that. Some of the people that are maybe especially environmentally sensitive may like that, but generally they find a way to hate it no matter what. Because, you know, what I believe is, and I'm not here to be political, but I find almost every progressive to be fake, because if they're politically progressive, then they should be all over Bitcoin. Because if what they're trying to do is do things like fight income inequality and fairness. I've shared with Greg before. My wife's originally from the Philippines. She grew up under the Marcos regime, under martial law. So I get a lot of my motivation from what happened to her, early in her life. Like, that shit is a much lower chance of happening in a Bitcoin world where Bitcoin is the base layer of money. And so, that's where I come at it. And to me, even if there is a climate problem, because we're not here to debate that, the money problem's a shitload bigger than that. And what I do a lot of speaking, and I used to have to make up examples. Like, imagine if this happened, if you were a refugee and you were fleeing your country because it was under war and you had to take all your money with it. No, don't have to do that.
But do you think that that I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of progressives maybe just haven't, because I've lived in a lot of different countries, right? And so I've seen people from a lot of different backgrounds, And so it's just super easy for me to be like, yeah, in Argentina, you can only buy a house with dollars, but you can only buy $200 a month with your Argentine pesos. And if you have to buy a house, you have to buy it. You have to bring like a whole wheelbarrow of dollars, and you have to have people around you to make sure that no one steals your money. But in the United States, I feel like a lot of progressives think, well, that could never happen here. Or they even see what's going on in Ukraine, that could never happen here. And I think a lot of people, they just haven't thought through this process. And I think it's super important to keep educating people on and push as hard as we can so people can understand like this can happen here. Just because we're in the United States, that doesn't mean that, or whatever country you are, it doesn't mean that you're immune from financial windfalls.
Yeah, amen. I'll tell you guys an interesting story. I have a connection with the El Salvadorian government. So when the announcement got made, for whatever reason, even though I'm not like, I don't have a big Twitter following or any sort of major social media presence, but for whatever reason, right after the announcement, the El Salvadoran embassy reached out to me the next day, and there was a guy there. He said, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you. Can you come to Washington to talk with me?" So I went up there, and at the time, I'm not being critical of anybody, but basically the people in the U.S. embassy didn't really know anything. Like Bukele basically just like he did it, right? And shoved it through, and they were kind of like blind. So, I sat there and kind of didn't really even have a business interest. Just like, hey, I'm just kind of educating these people and kind of orange pilling them and telling them what to expect. And then they invited me down there about 6 weeks later, and I spent 10 days. My wife and I went down there for about 10 days and worked with the people there, and they were on this really rapid learning curve. So anyway, I'm just saying I've got some connections there from the ambassador on down. So then the Canadian trucker thing happens, right? And I know Foss. Has Foss been on this show?
Yeah.
Foss, yeah. Okay. So he
Wait,
lives
that was the U.S. embassy in El Salvador.
No, the El Salvadorian embassy in Washington.
Oh, okay.
So the Salvadorian ambassador to the U.S.
All right, so you're in El Salvador at the U.S. Embassy.
No, I'm in.
Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up, Bob.
I was about to.
Did you meet Milena Mayorga? That's all we want to know.
Yes. Yep. I met Milena. Yep.
How does he smell? No.
Hardy.
Are they just writing out his questions? They'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, he's got to write it down.
Got a lot of questions. Yeah. Nice lady.
So in your story, yeah. Go ahead.
So yeah, no, I don't know where the hell I was, but
you were in El
anyway.
Salvador.
Canadian trucker. So I know, I know Foss, and then I know Nick, who's Nobody Caribou. Do you guys know Nick? He runs Bitcoin stuff. So I've been a guest on his a couple of times too. And so anyway, when the people started to get canceled, I got some people that connected to me who were trying to, some of the Canadian citizens who had been canceled were interested in seeking political asylum in El Salvador. And it blew my mind. And, I just connected them. I don't know what happened. It's not my business. So I just said, here you go. And I connected them to the right people at the embassy in Washington. But just the fact that Canadian citizens would consider fleeing to El Salvador to seek refuge is mind-blowing. So Sean, back to your point.
Wait, so they were asking for political asylum, or were asking a fast track for visas?
No, they wanted asylum.
Political asylum, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can understand it to a certain degree, right? I mean, if you're up there, your bank accounts are frozen or seized, you've been fired from your job, your credit cards are canceled, So
there's paperwork done that a Canadian citizen asked for political asylum in El Salvador. That's huge, man.
Yeah, I want
That's
to. I can only
mind-blowing.
say that the inquiry came, and I said, "Hey, I connected the two groups. I don't know what happened after, but yeah, something like that, Greg."
We can all see what was happening, right? It's outrageous what's been happening to those guys. So
yeah. So to your point, Sean, like, could it happen? If it can happen in Canada, it can happen in the U.S. I mean, most U.S. people consider Canada part of the U.S., right? So
I mean,
Canadians hate that.
I'm hearing a huge investment opportunity. I mean, are there any Tim Hortons in El Salvador right now, or is that something we can get on board with?
I like the way you think, Greg. There you go.
Get the hockey team down there. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Invest
Yeah,
in
suddenly
El
they're a fourth
Salvador
in the Winter
hockey.
Olympics.
The question is how do we call the Canadian coyotes? Like, do we call them moosies?
No. Plural of moose is what? Meese?
Meeson and the Moosin and Boxing.
Boxing.
That's crazy.
Boxing
Like,
the donuts.
the reality that we live in now, like Canadian civilians.
Yeah.
Supposed to be the other way
You
around.
couldn't make
right?
this shit up. I mean, it's so wild. You couldn't make this shit up. And like I said, when I go talk to people to talk about this happening in Canada, the Ukrainians, like politically, I have a big issue with the seizure of like the oligarchs' property and things like that. I don't know whether they're good dudes or not. They probably aren't. But if they were bad dudes before, then why didn't we do something before? I mean, so. Bitcoin, like I said, Bitcoin fixes this. And I'll say this too. I believe what we'll start seeing is a crumbling of things like real estate values and equities, because like I give this analogy. I think somebody's talking about Argentina. So if you were an Argentine citizen and you sold a business, let's say, and you had $1 million, historically what you would do is you get on an airplane, you fly to Miami, you buy a condo, you go visit a wealth advisor, you go have the wealth advisor buy a bunch of stocks for you, but you get basically what you're securing is your store of value is based on something backed by U.S. property rights, right? And now, if you're that same guy, you're not going to buy the condo in Miami. You're not even going to leave Argentina. You're just going to go buy Bitcoin. And this, I think Biden pressed the nuclear button financially by doing what he did. And I think it's a massive mistake. For us as Bitcoiners, it's great because it's like an accelerator, but
the test run for that happened like a few years back in Cyprus.
Yep.
Again with Russian oligarchs. Like that money was all Russian oligarchs' money that was seized, most of it.
Yeah, the bail-in. Yeah.
I think the issue that most Bitcoiners, at least, I mean, I can't speak for most Bitcoiners, but at least me, with the seizing of the Russian oligarchs' money, is at what point am I labeled as an oligarch, a Bitcoin oligarch, or someone who's donating money to a protest in Canada, to a trucker protest in Canada, so I think that's like the issue is, when is what I'm doing, when is it okay by the law, and then when is it retroactively not okay by the law? I think that's the biggest issue with it.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was talking to Congressman Sessions today, I said, that's my fear with CBDC, is it's that it's not 100% about like just control, like, hey, you can cut me off. It's that you can retroactively go decide that something I did in the past, like, okay, I spent 20 years buying gas. Oh yeah, that's evil. You owe a tax for that. You spent money on like I love I do a lot of fantasy football and I guess you'd call it gambling and things with like that. Somebody could say, oh, well, that was wrong. We're gonna penalize you for that. Or obviously even worse. I mean, you can but anyway.
Worse is that
they can say, oh, you traveled to this country in a vacation in 2005, and in this country, this this and this happened, you were part of it, you know,
Yeah.
even though you know,
Yeah.
They become the ultimate Orwellian like Ministry of History, where they don't just control the history of the community, they control the history of you. Like the thing you did last year was wrong. I just decided it's wrong. Until now, it was pretty okay, but just for whatever reason, it was wrong, and get me your CBDTs. Yeah.
Right. And look, for me, you know, my wife and I, we had kind of a serious conversation, but like we've looked at, you know, she has Philippine citizenship as well as U.S. citizenship, but we've seriously looked at, like, you know, do we go get the El Salvadorian citizenship too? And, you know, part of the reason is, I'll even use that El Salvador example. You know, I was up there the day after the announcement, or 2 days after the announcement. I was in Washington, D.C. meeting with them. Then I was over there, and I wasn't a major. I'm not taking any credit for anything that happened there, but I was affiliated with them. I met with them. I've been very publicly supportive of them. At any point in time, somebody could say, well, you're conspiring with the enemy. They decide that's the enemy. If that's the equivalent of Russia, you know, hey, I'm fucked, right? So, we basically have to have our go bag and a place we can go. And, you know, I'm not predicting that would happen. I'm not, but it's a non-zero possibility, right? You know, as all of us, I mean, I think all of us doing what we do, we're all semi-public. Well, maybe not yellow, but nobody knows what yellow is. But, you know, those of us that are out there doing this, there's a certain risk, as you said, like, you know, the history may decide that what we're doing was too evil, for whatever reason. So.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more countries soon that are going to be adopting Bitcoin. So maybe you might not need the El Salvador citizenship.
Yeah,
maybe even about Honduras. Honduras, I heard something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that there was a top 10 state by population that was thinking about putting some Bitcoin
in. Yeah. Could be a good state.
Yeah. I heard it rhymes with Pinpucky. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so Bob, you've been super generous with your time tonight. I don't want to run you too late. I know you've got stuff to do at the conference. I want to make sure we get a chance to have RD ask his question this evening.
All right, let's go.
What's he going to ask?
Labra,
do you
have a question?
No, I'll let RD speak.
Such a good boy.
This is the main question of the night. If the meme factory did exist, and we all know it doesn't, who would you like, who would you retweet, and who would you mute?
What was the last part? So who would I like, who would I retweet, and who would I
mute?
Mute. Wow. Well, definitely going to mute Greg.
Great answer.
Back to normal.
Great punter.
I'll retweet you, and I will follow Yellow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
RD, what do you think about those answers?
Spot on. Can't argue with that.
I'm back.
Great banter.
Great.
I'm back.
All right, and Bob, I want to make sure you get a chance. Do you have any questions for anybody in the meme factory?
Wow. You know, I guess if you ever make this real, you know, will you actually seek a sponsor?
Oh yeah, we're always looking for money. So yeah, you need a place to spend money. Where are you guys?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'll talk to you, Greg, if you want. Because I'll just say, you know, I love what you guys do. I think that, you know, you mix levity and fun with serious topics. I love the format. You've had great guests, so, you know, my hat's off to you. Guys are doing great work. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and can you tell the audience what you're up to that they might be interested in, where they can find you, and what you're doing next.
Yeah, thanks. Me personally, you can find me on Twitter, boomer_BTC. You can go to barefootmining.com and find out most about our company. I'm always looking for energy. If you're connected, if you're out there, you're connected to energy, and it's at a good price and it's sustainable, we'd be happy to talk to you. And the way that we work is we do fund some of the sites ourselves, but most of the sites we do bring in outside investors. And part of our mantra is that once the mining operation gets up, we pay out daily. So we don't pay out in fiat, we pay out in Bitcoin. And so, we're, if you're investing in a Bitcoin company,
you're streaming the salaries and the revenues.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice,
so we want,
nice.
We're not gonna, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So we want to get it to you.
Awesome.
And you control it. If you want to sell it, you want to do whatever with it, it's yours. It's not, you're not hiring me, as an investor, you're not hiring me to manage your Bitcoin. You're hiring me to make it. So, that's my job, and I'm gonna get it to you as fast as I can, so you can do with it. So people that are interested in owning part of an operation, also reach out to us through the website, or you can DM me or whatever. We also Barefoot Mining has a Twitter account too, and you can DM us through there. So that's what we're about.
Bob's info.
Greg has a lot of gas. We can do business.
I do have a lot of gas. We can definitely do business.
Yeah,
we can do some power generation.
All
right, Bob. Thank you for your time. If anybody wants to check out Bob, his info is in the show notes. Other than that, I really appreciate everybody coming by tonight. Bob, especially you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you at the conference.
Yeah. See you next week, Miami.
Cheers.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
Good night,
Bob.
everybody.
Good night.
Bob.